Anyways, folks, my name's Dave Hodge. I'm the president of Zimto Capital Corp, your host today for question period. We have a number of questions that were emailed in. We always like to take priority for questions that come from the floor. So if you want to ask a question, all you have to do is listen to Colton.
So yeah, if you want to ask a question, you can feel free to unmute yourself and just ask us directly, or you can put it in the chat. We obviously prefer if you're, engaging and chatting with us, so feel free to unmute yourself. That's preferred, but again, the chat is fine too.
So just a little bit about Zimto Capital. We're very much in the business of supporting the companies that we have a position in. We have some other aspects to our business, which would include a property generator, to which has been very profitable in the past. It's a little tougher at the moment, but we proceed with that. And our other aspect is, company creation, and then, of course, our cooperative marketing program, which this question period is part of. Anyway, we'll just get started off with some of the emailed questions just to get things warmed up. And Colton, if you'd like to read the first question.
Yeah, so today, first question came in earlier this morning, talking to Zimto directly. So there was a quick mention about Aries and how it looks to be first out of the gate, and the stock appreciation is falling through, just a tad delayed. So which of your holdings would you say is next in line, a Canadian or a U.S. property? He mentioned he has his eye on Seville, Lakewind, and X-Men, and thoughts of Zinc8 and Dimension 5 as well.
So this is always a tough question. It's sort of like asking a parent which is his favorite child. So it's difficult for me to be overly selective on which one's next. But just let me go through a probable list of what's happening. And certainly at the top of the list, mostly because their name starts with an A, is Arctic Star. And they have just announced that they are drilling in the Northwest Territories. This is a very courageous program, and if they're to hit on this program, it could be have a huge effect on the stock. And considering it's 9 or 10 cents this morning, that certainly would create a huge opportunity. And we have Commerce Resources, which Zimto has it has a large position in Arctic Star as well. But Commerce Resources clearly has the opportunity to go to the big time. And that's largely based on its management team. But more specifically, on the size of and grade of its resource in northern Quebec, called Ashram, clearly is the largest and richest rare earth deposit in the world, and that certainly poses huge opportunity and upside. Core Assets, which is one of the companies that we built from scratch, or more Scotty built from scratch. It's in the process of raising some money to do a drill program. It's currently flying the property to target that. We have somebody here from IMCX International Mining, always there's upside in these kinds of stocks. Lakewind also running a gold program, or a drill program on a gold property. Seville Resources, one of Commerce's partners, and is putting a real spin on the niobium aspect next door to the Eldor. We have one of our crazy ones, Zambezi Sports, and that's a company that I hope somebody asks a question, because we'll let Justin at some point tell you a little bit more about Zambezi Sports. It's one that Zimtu is helping take public, building it from scratch. They're moving along. They're doing very well. Is that all of them?
That's what we got.
That's all we got. So she wrote. So that was me trying to answer the question, which one was my favorite. I suppose I missed out X-Men, but unfortunately, they're not here today.
Okay, so we can move on to the first questions here, directed at the companies. And I see Dave McMillan, you've popped in here. So we can start with IMC to get the ball rolling. So the first question for IMC is, the company announced on February 23rd of 2021 that it had commenced startup procedures for its 2021 exploration campaign. What can you tell us about how things are going, and is COVID having an impact at all?
Well, where we're at is that we're finalizing our financing, and we've identified all our targets. We're going to drill a minimum of 2,400 meters with 8 pads, 8 setups. That'll start at the beginning of July. We've got the bids out for all of the manpower and camp and pad construction and the drillers and so forth. And so we've got the budget set up, and we've got bids coming back. We will let the contracts go next week. And we've got all the data from the previous work being put together. And yeah, so we're going drilling, and we're going doing IP and mapping and sample collection on other parts of the property. But main target this year is going to be the cathedral. If we see any mineralization in the core, we're going to continue the drilling.
Okay, great. And COVID's not having an impact on that at all?
It does. You can't fly the whole crew in on the helicopter. You know, you have to space them out. So it's a little more expensive flying them around. And, you know, the camp, you can't cram everybody into, you know, a couple of tents. So yeah, it's costing a little bit more money. And, but that's what we're living with.
Yeah, it's to be expected.
At least we can work. So.
Okay, great. Well, that's what we have for IMC. Again, there may be some questions later on from the audience, so we'll hold for that. But thanks, Dave. Thanks for the update. So we'll move on here. Next questions would be for Arctic Star. Pat, I see you there. So as Dave kind of mentioned, Arctic Star has begun drilling at the Diagrass project. Do you have a timeline for when we can expect results?
Yeah. Once we've intersected kimberlite, it'll take about 4 to 6 weeks to get diamond results back. We will probably have a news release for every kimberlite we hit, and that could be from this point on. We're down in the first hole. We started drilling yesterday. We had a pump problem, but we're back up and drilling, and we're in the overburden, and we expect to get through that sometime today. So when we hit bedrock, we'll know for our first hole. And then from that point on, it'll take about 4 to 6 weeks to get diamond results. We're gonna have to split the core, break it up, bag it, send it to Yellowknife, and then it'll go from there to Chuck Fippy's lab in Kelowna to be fused. So there's our rig. We're using Aurora Geoscience as an overall contractor. We've used them many times before. They're excellent, but they're based out of the territories. And that lets us get the program happening because we get the COVID restrictions. And if we brought anyone from out of province, we'd be in a little bit of a worry, but we've every bit of the crew here, including helicopter companies, all the support companies, are from the territory. So we have no problem that way.
Okay, great. And this picture was taken, was it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Okay, so the next question here is, what can we expect with these results compared to the previous Debeers discoveries in the area?
Well, that's the whole premise of the program, and it comes out of Buddy's head. And when he was back in his Rio Tinto days, he hit 101 pipes in this area with Rio Tinto, and that eventually became Diavik. In '98, he took 20 of his pipes, and he just thought there was no reason why everyone in the world should be drilling mag lows. And in fact, there's a lot of literature through the Russians and through Buddy and Rio Tinto, and that Rio's information came from Buddy, is that magnetics are destructive to diamonds. So when you're drilling something that is magnetic, there is some form or degree of damage to the diamonds. They could be partly etched, they could be partly resorbed, or they could be fully resorbed back to carbon. But it's not the ideal setting for diamonds. What it does always generally is it gets you into a new field. So you want to hit those pipes to understand that you're in a new field. And then the thinking these days compared to back in the early 90s when Lac de Gras was having his first thing is that the other pipes, which are magnetics and gravity, which do not contain magnetic or magnetite, and those are all the pipes from Akati and Diavik that produce. There's no magnetic pipes that produce from those two companies. And there is two, but they're slightly magnetic. So they're considered an EM and gravity target. So Buddy in 1998 took 20 of his pipes. We ran big grids around them, or he did, and he found 10 more pipes that were associated with his magnetic pipes. Long story short, every one of those pipes had a better diamond result than the sister mag low. So that's the premise of this, what we're doing right now. We picked up 23 pipes 7 years ago that Debeers dropped after 27 years. They hit 27 or 23 mag lows. We did geophysics around all of them now. We've got 15 targets and some geophysics still to come back, so that might increase. All of them are non-magnetic. So that is our premise. We're drilling those targets starting yesterday, and we expect to have some pretty interesting diamond results. Debeers had some interesting diamond results on their mag lows, but we expect, based on history, that will get better. Just as a sideline, Debeers dropped 2 pipes about 10 years ago that Mountain Province picked up, did the same thing. They actually said they're doing what Buddy did, went on the ground, did gravity and EM. They found 2 extensions to those pipes, drilled them both. They were both new kimberlites, and that became a mine. It's like 1-2, done. So there's strong evidence what we're doing here is going to provide some really interesting results. The first step is to get the kimberlites. The second step is to fuse them, and overall that'll be about a 3-month process. If we're very successful in a lot of pipes here, it'll probably be a little longer than that. Because 50's lab can only take 8 kilos per kiln. Each fusion session is 24 hours, and if you get more and more sample, it just takes a little longer and longer. But you'll have ongoing results. It won't be released in one blob. You'll see them probably weekly. So there'll be a lot of news releases, a lot of excitement, and we're the only game in town. And I mean, in the world, we're pretty well the only ones doing what we're doing. So we have we have everyone's attention that is interested in diamonds. So it'll be fun.
Great. All right. Awesome. Thanks, Pat. We'll move on here. We have Commerce Resources, and now there is a question in from John Rice, so we'll start with that one. So have you started on a conceptual mine and operating plan? If this information is available on the website, please link to it.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. On the presentation dated January 2021 on the website right now, on slide 24, there is a cartoon of the conceptual mine plan. I mean, part of it is that it's not very detailed. We are certainly looking forward to putting a more detailed plan on the website, but it's a very simple deposit. And this is one of the important fundamentals to understand about the ashram. It is a carbonatite that outcrops at surface and then goes down to well below 600 meters where we have drilled it with consistent mineralization from surface. The surface expression, as we understand it right now, is it's basically an oval that is somewhere between 1 kilometer wide and 2 kilometers north to south. And these carbonatites are igneous. They come up from the center of the earth. And in areas like the Northern Shield, the Canadian Shield, where there is basically no mountainous activity, it's essentially unfaulted, unfolded, comes straight up from the center of the earth. So the actual deposit then as well, since it is hosted by the most dominant rare earth element mineral that dominates commercial production, which is monazite. Also, then the processing on site and downstream is as simple as it gets in the rare earth element industry, which is the situation on site would be extract. The current business plan is 4,000 tons per day. Do flotation on site, and that's basically all of the beneficiation that would be done on site. And in that flotation, we reduce mass by 75%. So on a 4,000 ton per day extraction, we're only then planning to ship out 1,000 tons per day. Then putting it on a road which does not yet exist, and then putting on a barge and barging it around to the downstream processing facility, which will be located somewhere on the St. Lawrence. And we've looked at 17 different sites for that. And arguably the most attractive at this point may be Matan or Bécancour, but that decision has not yet been made. So in terms of the news we had out a week ago, in terms of signing the contracts for DRA, Global, et cetera, for the firms to work on the pre-feasibility study, certainly there will be significant detail that will be disclosed in the pre-feasibility study.
Great. Mel, I see you. Did you have a question for Commerce?
No.
No, okay. All right. We do have some more email questions there for you, Chris. So this one's more about the market in general. What kind of relationship is there between the global chip shortage and rare earths?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And, these items, news items, this is a question I've been asked several times recently. So rare earth elements are used in the doping of semiconductors and microchips, but it's a very small market ultimately for rare earth elements. So ultimately, the real impact that a shortage of semiconductors or microchips would be if downstream automotive manufacturing is slowed down, because in terms of the size of the markets for rare earth elements, the production of electric vehicles and battery electric vehicles, that is one of the biggest markets for rare earth elements. And so if there is a slowdown in the production of semiconductors and microchips, and that then causes a slowdown in automotive production, then yes, there will be a temporary a reduction in demand for rare earth elements. But again, rare earth elements are not a big input into the manufacture of chips. The other interesting thing about this question is, and I don't think people understand this as well as they might, is that chip production is not dominated by China. Chip production is dominated by other Asian countries like Taiwan, for example. So China is actually behind the 8 ball in this regard as well. Yes, certainly you could say that the West and, General Motors, announcing a slowdown in automotive production, et cetera, yes, that's an impact, but it's not related in any regard to the ongoing tension, let's say, between the United States and China. It's different. China is just as much, if not more, affected by a chip slowdown coming from places where they are not friendly with, like Taiwan.
Okay, great. And there's one more question here, and you touched on it just a minute ago, but when will the road be built?
That is a very good question. Ultimately, the most important thing about the road is, first off, that in the preliminary economic assessment, the more expensive road, $265 million, that was fully paid for by Commerce Resources, and the company still had payback in less than 2.5 years. Now, in terms of the economics of the road itself, we have improved that road route significantly, and essentially we are following what is a well-traveled winter route used by the Inuit to go down to one of their favorite winter fishing lakes, which is just to the east of us, which is called Lac Lemoyne. And so this road route makes much more sense than the one that SGS used in the PEA. And we've reduced the cost by approximately $60–70 million in terms of that road. And then in terms of the economics of Commerce paying for the road completely, ultimately the economics in the PEA, they did not include any mention of any byproducts. And now we produce essentially this met spar byproduct for free, essentially. And Commerce Resources could produce 70 to 80,000 tons of met spar per annum for over 100 years. And met spar's value currently right now is somewhere between $500 and $600 US per ton. So to lowball it, that's an additional, $40 million of revenue onto our economics. So again, the most important point about the road is I don't know when it will be built. I don't know if Commerce will build it ourselves, but as well, the government of Quebec has been saying for 9 years that they are interested in financing the road. And in terms of moving that ball along, I would suggest that the news a month ago between Midland Exploration and SOQUEM was maybe the final duck in a row for the Quebec government in terms of them finally getting more political benefit from announcing financing the road. And in terms of roads in Canada, let me be clear. The government of Quebec has financed 2 previous roads, both of which were essentially driveways to one mine. And so, in 1996, 1997, they financed the road to Extratus-Raglan. And then in the early 2010, 2011, they financed the road to Stornoway's Renard project, both financed by Quebec, both then paid for out of profits from the companies operating those mines. But the important difference is where we are in the Labrador Trough is an insanely mineral-rich area. And so already 8 companies, including Commerce Resources, have signed a letter of intent with the Société de Plan-Nord saying, answering the questions posed by the Société de Plan-Nord. If the government of Quebec builds a road, would you use it? Yes or no? And second, if you used it, would you pay a percentage of the maintenance fee? And so Commerce and 7 other companies signed yes to both of those questions. So the government of Quebec has been talking about financing this road for 9 years. And now with Midland, who did not sign that letter in 2018 for, I can't speculate on the reasons, but certainly the president of Midland, Gino Roger, suggested to me a year later that he believed the government should finance the road. So it is still a work in progress. If at the end of the day, Commerce pays for the road, ultimately, fine. If the government of Quebec pays for it, fantastic. But we will certainly look forward to keeping our shareholders up to date on this as the story develops.
Great. Thanks, Chris. That's all we've got for you, unless someone else has some questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank
you. The next question here, I'll go for core assets. So, Nick, I'll ask you to unmute yourself here. These questions are probably best directed at you. So for the first one, what are your exploration plans for the next 6 months?
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the question. I assume you can hear me okay there.
Yeah, it's a little quiet. If you could just maybe hold. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, so in the coming months here, we're going to finish up our VTEM survey. We're also doing a regional analysis there to prospectivity analysis there, just to make sure that we have everything we need land-wise. And then we're going to go ahead and do some grid sampling over these high-grade silver pods in the carbonate replacement type area to the west. And after that, we're going to be ready to start drilling some of these superficial high-grade silver anomalies. I think you're muted there.
Yeah, thanks. So the next question, what makes your project different from other copper or silver projects?
So I guess the main thing that we're looking at here, we are looking at carbonate replacement type. And sometimes these are confused with what's called an MVT type, which would be a Mississippi Valley type. And the distinguishing factor, generally size and also grade. So anything less than, if you want to, we're trying to check off boxes here in our prospectivity analysis and try to fit this try to find out what model we're fitting. And we're seeing well higher than 400 gram per ton silver in all of our samples that are at surface. So that gets us out of this MVT range and puts us more into the carbonate replacement, which is more like what's going on in Mexico, where people, you know, you get 1 to 6 meters of high grade over 400 gram, and then you get your zinc and lead, very high zinc and lead. We have 20% plus, and then there is a gold credit there as well. And then the other thing that sets us apart is we also have the upside of a porphyry discovery, which brings us in with the copper aspect, high grade in skarns, and then we're going to get our lower grade, higher tonnage. And the property's huge, so if we can tap into the system, we can follow it all the way back to the source, and that's the goal here.
Okay.
Just a minute. I think what should also be mentioned is that at the current price, a discovery type drill hole would have a very dramatic effect on the price. So this is clearly a Zimtu style opportunity, and that is really to get in at the beginning. So good luck with the program, Nick.
And the market is looking for grade right now, it seems, and that's what we're trying to produce here with the high grade silver. And I think it's attainable. And like I said, with these CRD type deposits, if you can tap into these mantos, if you can hit them at the subsurface, you can generally follow them back to the source. And it could be kilometers away, but that's, you're talking massive sulfide all the way back to the source.
And we did just have a question come in from John Rice. Have you started on a conceptual mine and operating plan?
We are far too early stage at this point to be talking about that. We're like Dave just said, we're a discovery story here. We've yet to even do a drill hole, and so that's going to be late this summer, August. The drill should be turning, and we're going to do 18 holes at least in our first program, and just take it from there. But so far, there's no mine or operating plan at this point.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nick.
No problem.
That was awesome. So we can move on here. The next company we have is Eagle Bay Resources. So Steve, if you're available, also don't know if Dave, you want to hop in too, but first question here, what are the plans with the financing of this company?
Good morning. Yeah, thanks for the question. Plans with the financing at the moment, we are just trying to close up the founders round and hope to have that done shortly, and then move on to a low seed financing. So it'll be a exciting opportunity. It's this rare earth space, as everyone has seen, the demand for it now, and as I said, a low seed financing up and coming very shortly here.
So after the financing, what are the next steps?
The next steps after that, Eagle Bay plans to discovery and exploration, and as I just touched on from the first question, a lot of interest in the discovery and exploration with rare earth. We also have some niobium up on this property, so we'd like to get some further results and exploration going on this, and a lot of demand in this space right now. So a very exciting time to be here. So thank you very much for your questions. If there's anyone else has any, happy to answer.
If I might just add a little bit onto that, certainly Eagle Bay is clearly part of the Zimtu family, and we will be offering our support all the way along. And there's not many in Vancouver that have more experience in the rare earth niobium space than we do. So I think the chances of success for Eagle Bay are strong. And they will be doing a financing here very shortly. I believe it'll be at 7.5 cents with a, what was the warrant going to be at, 15?
It will be at a 10-cent warrant for the first 6 months, 15 cents for the remainder of the year.
So that's a pretty strong opportunity, considering you'll be able to double up at 10 cents within 6 months. So carry on, Colton.
Yeah, and I will say we are working closely with Eagle Bay to get some good marketing material up and the website, so you will see that shortly as well. Okay, so next company moving on is Lakewind Resources. So James, I see you there. Thanks for coming. So in March, Lakewind announced renewed exploration on the newly acquired Quartz project. What can you tell us about the progress at the Quartz project?
You guys can hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. We've recently completed geophysics on it. We're planning a drill program, and that's where we're at right now. So the geophysics just came back early this week here. So.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the only question we had you there for, James, but if anything comes through, we'll be sure to let you know. But Lakewind is another exciting early one for us. Okay, so next company would be Seville Resources. We did get one in the chat there from Randall, so I'll start with that. When will the drilling program commence on the Seville property?
Well, we are looking to get a drill program going in the summer. That will be a combo drill program. Commerce and Seville will be sharing mobilization costs and then drilling our respective properties. I don't have an exact date for when we're going to start. There's a number of things that we need to source before we get going, but we will be drilling this summer.
Okay, and another one here. CBMM recently released an estimate that the global niobium demand will grow from 100 tons a year to 45,000 tons by 2030. Putting Seville in a great position. Can you comment on this recent estimate?
I didn't actually see that directly come out from CBMM, but if it is in the slightest bit true, that is going to be an extremely huge opportunity for Seville, as well as Commerce and their Blue River project, which has quite a resource of niobium as well.
Okay, great. All right, so we got for Seville, and if anybody has any ones, just throw it in the chat as well. And I'll just quickly, we had a couple questions about Dimension 5. Dave, I don't know if you wanted to answer these. So we don't have Chris Parr here to answer, but Dave's pretty well versed. So concerning Dimension 5 and Aduro's technology, has it been used somewhere else or independently tested?
It has been independently tested by one of the Alberta universities. The money that we just finished raising will go to pay for a pilot plant, or what Aduro calls a demonstration plant, but one they'll be able to take prospective buyers of the technology, or people that want to joint venture it, or investors will be able to go to a location in Toronto and see it actually convert, do its magic trick in creating energy. Clearly is a bit of a magic trick. And really the only way we're going to ever be able to clean up all the plastic in the ocean is to make it profitable. Charities and government are not going to be able to tackle the immensity of that problem without technology that makes it profitable to clean that up. And yeah, I'm a bit of a right-wing kind of guy, but that's how things get fixed, is by capitalism. My name's Dave Hodge, and I said that.
Okay, great. Now you sort of touched on this one for Dimension 5, but how do you see Dimension 5 tech developing in the next months?
Well, I did kind of touch on it in that we will build the demonstration plant first, and we've raised enough money to do that. That I think will take the technology to the next step, because anybody that's going to use it is going to need data from that test plant in order to engineer it properly for their specific use. mean, you have to remember it can be used to recycle tires into energy. It can take unsorted plastic, turn that into energy. It can take heavy oil from Saskatchewan and turn it into sweet crude. It really is a fascinating technology. It is new. It essentially uses water to unlock the energy that's in those materials. Very exciting project for Zimtu in that it offers that other step of diversity into the tech sector.
Okay, great. And so actually we did receive a question in the chat here sent directly to me for Lakewind. So James, if you're still there, I see you. Are there any financing opportunities coming up?
We will later this year, not at the moment.
Okay, great. So yeah, we can just keep updated with Lakewind. And if you want to keep updated with Lakewind, you can go to their website as well. If you follow Zimtu, we're going to be updating everything that happens with them too. So just stay connected. Okay, we did get a couple questions. Now these ones are for Zimtu from Broom Vanderkirk, just coming in now. And actually they did set these in advance. So what's the intrinsic value of Zimtu share at the moment? So this is that fancy Scotty number, but maybe we can show them snapshot.
Sure.
So I'm just going to pull up our Zimtu snapshot. Now this is a relatively new endeavor by us that is showing the value of us as well as the value of our shareholdings. So this is as of April 12th. You can see our market cap here. And here's the total equity value of our Zimtu investment holdings. And if you go down here, you can see our top equity holdings.
So if you just pause there for a moment, and seeing as you investors are the experts at this, if you look at those top companies and the share positions that Zimtu has, and you project success on 2 or 3 of them, it's really quite amazing what could happen to Zimtu's share price. Clearly, Commerce has a big opportunity, as does Zinc8. I mean, all of these companies are raising money and spending it properly. They're taking your money and betting on the fastest horse. And advertise a little bit that next Wednesday we have a rare earth presentation featuring Chris Berry from New York, Stefan Bogner from Switzerland, that will give a presentation on where rare earths are today and where they might be going. And then 3 short presentations by Commerce Resources, Seville, and the brand new, almost there but not quite, Eagle Bay.
Actually, we did have a question come in quickly here, so I'll just discuss that now. Pat, this is for Arctic Star, so if you're still available. Super simple, what kind of access exists to the drill site?
Well, there's many drill sites. When you're dealing with kimberlites, we've got 10 to 15 targets that are spread over probably 25 kilometers. It's helicopter supported. You're in the middle of the Arctic. You're about 100 k's from the Arctic Circle. And if you looked at that picture before we had the drill, you're sitting on a flat lake. It's just frozen with a lot of snowdrift on it. So everything's helicopter supported. Based on success, we're right beside the mines though. We're 17 k's away from Divik, and we're 26 k's away from Akati. But Akati has a stringer pipe that's in production called Misery that comes to our property border. So they're about the same distance away. And our plan is not to build a mine here. It's to take 1 or 2 or 3 of these pipes through feasibility and get a price tag on them and sell them to the existing mines because they're running out of ore. So what will happen is that within 2 years we can put these on the table to sell as complete packages, and they'll just build extension roads from where they are in the mines to these new bodies. So it's tough. You're in the Arctic. This is the difference between you're not laden with infrastructure here, but the money's involved in these pipes are massive. So we can prove these up within 2 years based on positive diamond results, and there'll be a for sale sign on them. So the infrastructure is tough. Everything we do up there is helicopter supported.
Great.
So just before we end this meeting, let me take the pleasure of introducing the newest member to our team, either the Zimtu team or the commerce team. We're not quite sure yet, but I'd like to introduce Boris. And Boris, maybe you could just introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. Hello, I'm Boris. I'm working with Chris in Commerce Resources. I've been at it for about 2 weeks now, and I'm learning a heck of a lot about the industry, and it's a very, very exciting. It's been great, and I look forward to my future here.
Your future.
Hopefully.
You think there's a future?
I got 3 months of probation.